day. But people haven't stopped reading the news, they've just stopped paying for it. Free online news organizations are extremely popular, but as publishers move their attention from print products to online products, online advertising becomes much more important. You're not selling somebody a physical product, you have to sell it through the advertisers. Because of the low yields of online advertising, you have to be read by millions of people in order to make money. The gateway to millions of people is Google. 80% of us search for a news story online using Google, and 60% of us will click on one of the top 3 hits. If you make it into those top 3, then you make a lot of money. But Google doesn't really care if you spent a month researching the story, if you've checked every fact, if you've revisited every quote. It doesn't even really care if you made the whole thing up in advance. It does care if you're first. So if you're the Mail Online, it makes perfect sense if you have a story which is A or B. Knox is innocent, Knox is guilty, to prepare 2 stories in advance so you can be first to the story. Google also cares about volume. The more news stories that your news organization puts out there, the higher you'll come in the rankings, which means that journalists around the world find themselves having to write more and more stories with fewer and fewer resources and less time. It's a recipe for disaster. There's less time for original reporting, less time for research, less time for both sides of the story, less time for journalism. It doesn't make any sense at all to commission a 4,000-word feature that takes somebody 2 months to write. You might as well commission 150 words that took 10 minutes to write. You'll get the same amount of money for a click on that page. Virality and clickability make perfect commercial sense, but they don't build into a journalism which informs and inspires. The other thing that happens when you have a huge amount of space to fill and not enough resources to fill it is that public relations gets involved, PR. Latest figures from the Pew Research Center in the US show that there's 4.6 PR executives for every single journalist in the States. That's an increase from 3.2 to 1 just 10 years ago. But as we all know, PR is not a good news source. All PR has an agenda, and it's not the impartial telling of the truth. Here's a great story. Liver, a social network only for drunk people. This is a story which was widely reported in March of this year. It was about a new social media experience, Liver. How it worked is this. You downloaded the app onto your smartphone, you plugged in a portable breathalyzer, you blew into the breathalyzer. If you were drunk enough, if you had a sufficiently high blood alcohol level, you gained access to the app. Once you were inside, you could geolocate and see where all the drunk people near you were. There was a special function so you could drunk dial a random intoxicated stranger. And if you woke up the next morning feeling dreadful about all the things that you'd done on Liver, you could push the blackout button and it would erase every digital memory of what you had done. The news was widely reported. It was, as I think almost everybody in this hall has immediately spotted, a hoax. 2 people had invented the idea just to see exactly how permeable the news media is, how easy it is to slip a story in when you send out a press release. But it's not just ideas for stories that get slipped in. Sometimes it's whole stories themselves. The practice of copying and pasting press releases is called journalism. In 2011, the Media Standards Trust set up a website, journalism.com. You can go there, you can paste in a news story, and you can see how much of it is taken directly or in part from a press release. And when they ran the numbers on stories produced in the UK, it was very scary. As much as 54% of all news content generated in the UK comes either in whole or in part from press releases. But it's not